Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Hey, Katie, I'm well. How are you? Always nice to chat with you.
Yeah, always so nice to chat with you. I love picking your brain about your TSM experience because you are so honest and raw and real and uncensored. And I just love that about you. And I know so many people have been able to relate to, your story over the years. So thank you for being with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always, I always say to you, I can talk this till I'm blue in the face because it's something that I found that was an absolute game changer in my life. Um, and no, I hadn't known about it. Now, Trexone and the Sinclair Method had been around for years by the time I finally found it when I was struggling with alcohol. And if I'd found it earlier, well, I didn't. You know what? That's everybody's got a journey in their life. I didn't, but it would have been nicer to have found it earlier. So if I can add and offer anything about this to anybody out there that's struggling with alcohol, hey, I will do it 24/7. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, so just for people who are joining, today we're going to be talking about challenges on the Sinclair Method and some of the most common challenges. Sam and her experience has definitely navigated all of these in some way or another. And I know you've kind of mentored even some people through the Sinclair Method as well, just like people and things like that. So just want to let you guys know that we are going to be talking about that today. There is a chat. So if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we can get to them as well. But let's kick it off, Sam. I guess with the first, there are a few different common challenges we're going to talk about today. And the first one I wanted to touch on is compliance, because it is such a big thing with anything. Compliancy with the medication is crucial to success on this method. And of course, that is a common challenge that, some people have. So I'm curious, in your own experience and just what you've seen being in this space, the past several years, what have you seen in the realm of compliance? And if you wouldn't mind actually just starting off by telling people how long you've been on TSM too. I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah. No, what has it been? What did we figure out that has it been 5 or 6 years? It's
That's what
amazing.
I was going back to our last conversation.
Yeah. Is it 2016? It can't be that long. That can't be 6 years. Is that right? 6 years? I guess so. Wow. And I mean, my journey was hard for anybody who has not seen my journey. And I've been very vocal and very straight up about this with Katie and other people in talking about alcohol use disorder, or alcoholism, as people like to call it. I like the term alcohol use disorder because it's a spectrum. It's not just you're either the guy rolling around in the gutter with a bottle in his hand or you're teetotaling. It's not that. The alcoholism goes on a spectrum. And I go back to the beginning. I was a late bloomer. It took me 18 months. Often you hear people, oh, it took me 3 months. They, didn't even think about alcohol anymore. I struggled up and down. Did compliance have anything to do with that? I don't think so. I'll tell you my experience with compliance, and then I can tell you what I've seen with compliance. And by the way, compliance, the great thing about the Sinclair Method is there's only one rule. And you can drink through the Sinclair Method, which is it was attractive to me because I couldn't go cold turkey. I couldn't go just all, at complete abstinence. My brother did, who, by the way, has given me complete carte blanche to talk about. His journey has been through AA. He loves it. It worked for him. Didn't work for me. Doesn't work for a huge amount of the population. I needed to be able to drink my way into this. And with the Sinclair Method, you can't. But the one golden rule is you have to take the pill an hour before you drink every single time you drink. That's the only rule, but it is a hard and fast rule that has to be stuck by if you want any kind of success. So at the beginning, I had horrible symptoms, which we'll talk about. So, I struggled. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This is really hard. Is this ever going to end? I went away to Mexico, didn't take enough with me. So my compliance, I was really solid about it because by the time I found naltrexone and the Sinclair Method, I was done, and you have to really be done. I try to stick to as much as I can. The odd time that I would slide off, you notice it. It just doesn't work. It doesn't do you harm. But put it this way, you really have to stick to that rule. If you want to train your brain, and if you look into the Sinclair Method, and what basically it does, it cuts off the endorphins that alcohol goes into our little brain. It goes, wah, to the people that are seriously AUD. So you still get drunk when you drink, but you don't get the wah that says, I want to have one, and it turns into 6 or 7, or you end up doing all kinds of crazy things that you would never have done if you hadn't been drinking. So you have to train your brain early, and you have to get that right. Again, you're not going to do damage, but if you wishy-washy back and forth, oh, you didn't like it, so you didn't take it a couple days, you're gonna screw your brain up, and it's going to take you way longer to get there. I was motivated, but I talked to two friends of mine recently. Yeah, you know what? I started it, and what did W have to say? He's like, I really felt really gross, and I'm like, well, yeah, you got to keep going a bit there, Dub. And he would say, well, I take it once in a while. Big mistake. You can't do it. You really can't do it. You have to stick to one golden rule, especially at the beginning, because what it does is it sets your brain up. And if you send your brain all kinds of messages, well, is there a reward attached to alcohol or is there not? It's just going to take you way longer to get there, and it's going to be confusing. So you got to barrel through. It's the one thing you have to stick to. I stick to it all the time now. You will still get drunk. You'll still get the buzz if that's what you're looking for. You'll still get the things that, we've talked about, but you have to stick to the golden rule. You really have to do it. And if you're not ready, because I have two friends that you think you're ready, but then you try it and you go, I'm not ready for the side effects. And that's fine. Well, then you're not ready yet. I would suggest you only go into this if you're 100% ready. Don't wishy-washy back and forth. It'll just be too difficult to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you had side effects going into the medication, which I know is a challenge for a lot of people or a fear for a lot of people because they're like, oh, am I going to have those bad side effects? Or some people, really struggle with them. So what was your experience with the side effects?
They were bad. And I always think, like sometimes I used to look back and go, why did I end up with alcohol use disorder? I mean, genetically, but also emotionally. Both my brother and I have AUD. We both handle it in two different ways. Thank God we both, knock on wood, both have found a way to manage the drinking and to not have it be such an albatross around our necks in life. But sometimes I think, why was it so hard for me? Why did it take me 18 months? Some people, it took 3 months of naltrexone, the Sinclair Method, and they were like, oh yeah, geez, I could either have a Diet Coke or a beer. Don't care either way. I was like, why isn't this working for me? Maybe I'm one of those people. Don't think you're so special. It'll work for you. It works for pretty much everybody. I know that they say 80%.
Think you're so special.
Yes, not to you or anybody else, just to me.
I just love it.
You're not that special, Sam. Like,
it's probably going to
work.
Yes,
I am. It's not going to work for me. I'm the small percentage. No, it's not. You got to give it a chance. And by the way, they say 80% success rate. I think it's much higher than that. I think people just dropped out, and that's why those numbers are there. I have yet to see one person that this hasn't worked for. I'm not joking. I've talked to tons of people. I have yet to see them. Now, they weren't ready for it. That's a very different story because alcohol use covers up a lot of things for us, emotional things, psychological things, mental things, for sure. That may be you not ready for it. But when you're ready, it's a way higher success rate. But so I had to look back and go, I had all these huge challenges. And I think they happened so that we could be here today talking about this because people need to see, because there's not an open market on the Sinclair Method. It's still a dirty little secret. Alcoholism, alcohol use disorder is still a dirty little secret. We're working on that. But people don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. There's a lot of shame around it. So we don't talk openly about it. But yeah, there were huge challenges for me. And the biggest one I would say was the side effects. They were horrible. Somebody had told me about it. I had found somebody said, oh, be prepared. This is going to be weird. And the first time I ever took it, didn't want to drink, but I lost any interest in food. I stopped the glass of wine. I drank half of it, but I also was looking at a sandwich that just tasted like cardboard. And I was like, wow, okay, so is food, but it was what was happening was the reward system in my body was trying to find its equilibrium, right? So all that stuff that gives you the rush, food, sex, whatever, just wasn't, so I'm like, okay, so am I going to lose my desire for food? That was only one time that happened, but I had such massive anxiety. Oh my God, I would say for the first 6 to 8 times that I used naltrexone in conjunction with the Sinclair Method, I was really anxious. I remember joining a friend of mine at a restaurant. It had been raining outside. I had my glasses on. I was driving. I could barely see. It was fuzzy on the sides. I was hyperventilating. I thought I was going to have a full-blown panic attack in my car. It was really horrible. And I was just discombobulated. And I've talked to a lot of people. There's been all kinds of different side effects. Yeah. And the one I hear the most is spacey and really oogly and really weird. Yeah, you know what? It's going to happen. It's not doing you damage, by the way. It's just capping off an endorphin that your body makes. And it's just trying to find a way to just get an equilibrium. It's not like a massive medication that's doing you harm. It's working towards what it actually is going to do for you. And all I can say to that is power through. I was ready. I've talked to 2 people that went, oh, maybe I'll try it again, but I just didn't like the side effects. Then you weren't really ready. I was so ready. I was done, doing all the crazy stuff. Cute in your 20s, kind of annoying in your 40s. And then when you're still drinking heavily, or in your 30s, and then when you're still going hard in your 40s, it starts to get pathetic. And I was like, okay, all the crazy shit that I was doing, I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. So I was ready to do it. So I powered through, and I would say mine was 6 to 8 times, half a pill. I had to start with 25 milligrams, an hour before you drink, every time you drink, as we've said. And yeah, I thought I'm never going to get through this, but I had been looking at forums and find out information, talk to people that have been on it, because you need to be able to bounce your experiences off other people, which is why, thank God, you're doing stuff like this. And Claudia Christian has a forum.
And you too.
yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, you got to let people know. Again, the world is still not talking about AUD, alcohol use disorder, because it's still a dirty little secret. We talk about allergies. If you had an allergy to strawberries, we wouldn't be ashamed of talking about that. Well, it's kind of the same thing with alcohol. Some people are allergic to it. Some people aren't. Some people respond to it. Some people drink one and have to have 20 and end up sleeping with half the city and doing all kinds of crazy things that we've done. Anyway, I digress. But yes, you got to power through the side effects. Some people have them, some people don't. Keep going. Even if you got to start with a quarter of a pill.
Yeah.
I just start with half a pill, did it 6 to 8 times. I would say by the 10th time, taking a full blown 50 milligrams naltrexone, I was fine. And to this day, I'm completely fine. I don't notice a single thing. So if that's you, power through. If you're not doing it because of the side effects, then maybe you're not really ready. And that's fair.
Yeah, no. And I appreciate that point, because I too, I had mild side effects in the beginning. They were still, noticeable, but it was any side effect I had was worth the benefits that I knew would come from it. So I totally agree that if someone, and of course, some people do have horrible side effects where they're throwing up in the toilet and they literally can't do the naltrexone. So we're not talking about those people, but more
no.
The people that
absolutely right. People that went down to a quarter of a pill and still were throwing up. And that's unfortunate, because this really is a miracle. It's not magic, but it's a miracle pill. And if this can work for you, it will change your life. You just have to, you have to give it a try. You have to keep going. You really have to keep going and find out where you sit with that pill.
So you tell us it took you 18 months. And this is something that is honestly so encouraging about your story, because a lot of people are at that point in the method or a year into the method, and they're super discouraged, because we often hear about the success stories at 3 months or 6 months, because of course we want to celebrate that, but we don't hear about the stories where people are like a year in and they're like, is this even working for me? So tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that, experience was like. Of course, I knowing your story, I know you did see some progress over that time, but it wasn't getting you where you were expecting to be. So talk to us about what that journey was like the first 18 months on the method.
I think they have a term for it. I call it, I was a slow learner. Again, I look and go, why was this so hard for me? Maybe so that you and I can be sitting here trying to help people through it who have been struggling. So I'm more than happy to share that experience, because it's daunting when you're sitting there on your own and you see some people, like there's forums and there's Facebook pages for the Sinclair Method, and you're watching all these people have great success, and you're thinking, again, because I think I'm pretty special. I'm an actor. All actors, have a very high
opinion. You are special.
And we are all special. But I thought this, and I'm kind of, why isn't this working? It's not working. No, it always worked. Like right from the very beginning, the first time I ever took it, I took it with a glass of wine in my favorite restaurant. I knew something changed, and I never went back to below that. But I didn't get the linear success rate. And that's one thing that I try to tell everybody who's ever got in touch with me and said the same thing. This isn't working. Hang on a second. The thing about naltrexone, the way it works, and you got to read the book by Dr. Roy Escapa. If I would say there's any way to learn the most about this, that's our Bible for anybody that wants to learn about. It's an easy read. The book is tiny. It's not super scientific. You got to get Dr. Roy Escapa's The Cure for Alcoholism. And it's all about the Sinclair Method. And it really is something that answers a lot of questions. And this is not a linear success thing. Yeah. It is for some people, but I know that we usually think success on a graph goes like that. And in math or in something more stable, it does. But with the Sinclair Method, and there's no telling who's going to respond and how they're going to respond. Again, some people that drank every day, all day, had success rate in 2 weeks and they were not drinking. And I'm like, what the F? That guy is the guy out of the movies. He's the rubbing the, peeing his pants and rolling around. he's the guy that's the major alcoholic. And how is he fine and drinking Diet Coke and doesn't even think about booze anymore? I went 18 months and I went 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. I never went back 100%, but I always, it kind of would go forward and back and then it would stall. And then I would go forward and I'd be like, yes, I finally made it through. No. And I mean, I did drink through the whole thing. That's a great thing about the Sinclair Method. Is you do drink through this. You can drink through this. In fact, somebody said each time that you drink, and this takes the guilt off, each time you drink is an extinction opportunity. So make sure that you look at it like that. You have to do it responsibly. You can't just powerhouse through a 26 or in 20 minutes and go, why isn't this working? It doesn't work like that. But, and that's a different discussion. So I went forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. And then I'd go a week and I'm like, yeah, I'm in it. And then I wouldn't. So finally, to get to the point, and it's really subtle. And I will tell you this, your success will not smash you over the head. It's one of those, what? I haven't had a drink in a week. And that's what I had. I was like being a baby. This isn't working. Last time I had a drink was 10 days ago. And then I realized I hadn't thought about it, but it's so subtle. It's not all of a sudden like, oh my God, I'm cured. It's, you just go, wow, I haven't thought about alcohol. And then you start counting the days. And then you're like, when's the last time I even had a drink? It just blows your mind. It will blow your mind, but not in a movie kind of way. It just, all of a sudden you'll wake up one day and go, I haven't had a drink in a week and I haven't missed it, or I haven't cared. And then you will start to really see it. And then you get confidence that it's there, and then you can move forward. And now I'm where I want to be. Now, it doesn't mean you can't still get drunk. You can. You got to be careful with naltrexone and how do you use it in the Sinclair Method. But I am now, there's no more monkey on my back. I have no more obsession with alcohol. I used to think about booze kind of all day, every day. It would be one of those cycles. Wake up in the morning with a hangover, not going to drink today. 12 noon, yep, still, nope. 2 o'clock, you're starting to go, well, the sun's out. Maybe I'll, no. And then 4 o'clock, well, I'll just have 1, and then you have 6. And then, it went around and around. It wasn't horrible. And I didn't blow up my life every day, but it was consistent. And now I don't even think about it. I got completely shit-faced 3 weeks ago because I hadn't had a drink in a month. Didn't even think about it. Went to a friend of mine's place. We had some drama. We get into it. All of a sudden we got done. And because I hadn't been drinking, my tolerance went way down. I ended up hammered and going, how did this happen? And a friend of mine even said the next day, she said, well, you haven't been drinking a month. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. So you have to be careful. You will get drunk. The albatross on your neck will be gone. It's amazing.
Yes. Okay. So I want to ask you, because you talked about the method, going 3 steps forward, 1 step back, and, the kind of, because that's a common thing for people. So I'm curious, looking back, if you noticed, did you notice if there was anything that caused you to, particularly do well or regress? Like, was it environmental? Was it emotional? Was it habitual? Like, what did you notice, or did you notice things that would really impact whether or not you, were progressing forward or kind of regressing back?
That's a really good question, because I think it's not one thing. For me, it wasn't just one thing. I would say emotional. That drinking a month ago was very emotional. I'm going through I own a house in Merritt, BC that was devastated by the British Columbia. You probably didn't hear about it. We had a flooding season in BC that is unprecedented. People lost their lives, their livelihood. Thousands of animals died. It was an absolute disaster and a travesty in BC. I was one of the people that owned a house that was completely devastated.
Oh
my
gosh.
bank, my mortgage company is calling the loan on the rest of my house. Everybody's walking away. The government's not helping me. It's horrible. And I at least have resources. Because I'm an actor and I work in other fields, I have certain access to resources. There's a lot of people that have lost everything, and everybody has walked away from them. It's anyway, I know it's disgusting. I'm going after the media today. Actually, I'm going to talk to the media about they should know more about how people are walking away from all these poor flood victims now. So I've been really stressed. Have I been drinking more? Not more often, because the addiction's gone. The thinking about drinking all the time is completely gone. Have I overdrank on a couple of occasions? Absolutely. Yeah. There is and this is something that I need to look at too once in a while. Because people say, oh my God, you don't drink anymore. No, I still drink, and I can still get drunk, and be very careful with that. Again, it's a miracle pill. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to take away the drunk. Yeah. Which some people go, oh, that's a good thing. Because you still sometimes, you want to get out of your head a bit. You'll still get drunk with naltrexone. it will manage your addiction. They're two very, very different things.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, it was environmental for sure. And habitual. Sometimes when I drink or overdrink, I'm like, am I having a lull? Is it not working? It's like, no, you have to watch your drinking. You still have to be responsible. You still have to drink mindfully, especially at the beginning. You can't like plow back a 40-pounder in 20 minutes after taking the pill and go, why did I want alcohol? You got to give it a chance to work, right? So there's a couple of different things. Habit, absolutely. Once in a while, I'll watch myself have more than one or two, and I'm like, you didn't want more than one or two. Why did you drink more than one or two? Why did you get drunk the other night with your friends? Because sometimes it's habit, and I need to look at it and go, you didn't really want those. Why did you do it? Because I guess that's what I do. And that's what my friends still do. I still hang out with drinkers, and I'm not going to stop doing that. I love my friends.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go to abstinence.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like yeah, I would say there's a lot of different reasons why we drink. You just need to start drinking mindfully and look at why you're doing it. And I don't mean you, Katie. I just mean everybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so helpful because even you with all of the experience you've had on the method and, years and years of experience, it's still this thing that, the habit can still impact us, our emotions can still impact us. And so just to really, for people watching, to give yourself some grace, because we can be so much in the habit of beating ourselves up when we do those things, especially early on in the method. I think as people with alcohol use disorder, our brain automatically says like, you idiot, why did you do that? And so the fact that you've even had those experiences, years into the method as someone who has like had major, major success with it, it's just, makes it real, I think, for people that is a challenge that of course you're going to experience early on and throughout the method.
Yeah. And again, there'd be one day where naltrexone and the Sinclair Method will be a meeting. It'll be an on-site. You can go and ask questions, but the medical community, you don't even know that much about it. So the Sinclair Method is still relatively new in its exposure. So people don't have anywhere else to go and ask these questions. I had Claudia Christian's, she has a forum, or what is it, optionsavelives.org, where I could go and read questions and get them answered. And one day that'll be open. Everybody be talking about it. But right now we have no one to go to and talk to about this and the double shame of alcohol use disorder. So, I want to be able to tell people my experience. And I think I had the hard experience, so I could share this stuff with people and let you know that don't worry. It's not infallible. You can still overdrink on the Sinclair Method. Just the mania, at least for me, was completely gone. But you got to kind of do your part. You can't just hand your life over to this pill and say, fix me. It's not going to fix you. You're still going to have issues. You're still going to be emotionally messed up in certain areas of your life. It's not going to take away your problems. But it will take away your addiction to alcohol. And that is the beginning of a lot of problems. So it's a good start, but you still have to be mindful about how you use naltrexone and the Sinclair Method. You still will overdrink. You just got to know how you're using it. Do I use it habitually? Yes. And that's something I will always be working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, Sam, when you started on the method, are you aware of were you drinking primarily more for reward or for relief? Or would you say it was a little bit of both?
I would say it was a little bit of both. I mean, remember in our early days of drinking when it was still kind of fun and you were that, I love you, man. No, I love you more. When you're young, and I started really young. I don't know, hammered at 14 sort of thing. I love you more. Like those really euphoric teenage drunks where you drank out of your parents' liquor cabinet. You were kind of giggly and bubbly and fun.
Yes.
As an adult, you lose that. So you still get a little bit of it at the beginning, but what happened with my drinking is I would blast right through that. So the little euphoric part was after probably the first glass of red wine. And then of course, by your sixth one, you're just a slobbering mess. So you kind of blast right through that fun moment and you get into the heavy, and then it's morose. And then it's not every time, but you know what I mean? Like that lasts for seconds and then you're blasting on through something else. So I would say for the fun of it, and to, sometimes life is boring and sometimes you think your friends are more fun or a date is easier to handle when you're a little buzzed or more animated, but then it goes deep and then downward and then you can't come back after that. And I would say relief for sure. You know, when I talked to somebody about alcohol use disorder, alcoholism, and I do believe that some, and this is not a cop out, I do believe that some alcoholics or AUD people, I think we're a very sensitive bunch. In the rooms of AA, when I spent time in there are some messed up emotionally people in those rooms. I think that people with AUD, mostly, there is some emotional struggle. That's how we got there. I think where our emotions are right under the skin. That's what makes me a good actor. It's what makes a lot of good actors alcoholic or drug addicted. They have such access to their emotions. I think we're a slightly different kind of person. So I think a lot of us do need the release and the relief from bringing your head. Oh my God, I tried to go on this PMA diet.
What is that?
Those positive mental attitude diet. I noticed that I can stay in positive for literally a split second, and then all of a sudden it's back, and I'm like, oh my God, I just did that for in a second. In a second, it turned back. So I think a lot of that is relief. Get out of your head. Yeah. And if you have childhood trauma, and I'm not blaming your parents, don't worry, I'm blaming mine, but we're all adults. We need to be able to move on from that. So whatever, yes, alcohol, definitely we use it as both. Yeah. At the end of the day, though, naltrexone still works for no matter how you used it. It still works. And that's the great thing about it. Whether you used it emotionally to release or to make things more fun, you just got lazy. You got lazy about finding fun. And what I've learned is being sober with people, it's way better because you're not, when you get a little hammered, I don't know if you remember this, but when you get a little hammered and you're a little hammered and you're trying to remember stuff and you're trying to have an intelligent conversation, but you're kind of heavy now and you're kind of stupid and you're not slurring, but you get hooded. It's just this cloud of alcohol kind of sits on you and you're like, ugh. When you're sober, you don't do that. And I'm like, wow. And you think everybody's drunk like you. I used to think everybody drank like I did. But then once you're sober in a room, you're like, holy shit. Not everybody's shit-faced 3 sheets to the wind here. I thought everybody was. No, they weren't. People went home in a sober state of mind. Not everybody left a wedding or a funeral ripping their clothes off and jumping in the fountain. You know what I mean? Not every time, anyway.
I wanted to ask you, though, about that, because you mentioned that you still hang out with people that drink. And I know a common question for people when they get going on this method is like the social aspect of drinking. Like, am I going to be fun socially? Am I going to lose my friends socially? So what's your social life now? I heard you say you didn't drink for a month, and I imagine you were social during that time with perhaps people drinking. So how are you navigating that, on the Sinclair Method?
This could be a tough one for a lot of people, because I've seen people say they had to completely remove their friends that were drinkers. I know that AA, they are very black and white. You got to get away from all alcohol. If I did that, I'd have no friends today. I hate to say it, or I'd have to have made
I would be your friend.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. And yes, there are people that are, working on that, like working on their alcohol. But then there's people that just don't drink. And I'm like, okay, we have very little in common, but only because we don't, they didn't do the same things that I did. And I'm now in my 50s. So the people that I do hang out with had the sort of lifestyle that I did have. Now, some of them don't, most of them aren't. I would say probably, well, I shouldn't say that. You know what? Actually, I do have some friends that have some serious drinking issues, but I guess that birds of a feather stick together.
Yeah.
I don't tend to do the late nights anymore. Well, I don't do the late nights at all anymore. I don't see those people as much. We go out for brunch. I'll still go and, have a few drinks and maybe have one too many. There's 2 or 3 friends that it's like, okay, this could turn into never a shit show the way it used to, but am I going to have more than I normally drink? Absolutely. And I still will, but I won't beat myself up anymore about it because it's few and far between. And like I said, the mania, the constantly obsessing about alcohol, that's completely gone. And that was the worst part for me. So I don't go down that spiral. So I have friends that still do drink. Absolutely. There are friends that I can't see because of that. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to be that person anymore. I was that person. I don't want to start out at 3 and get home at 4 in the morning and not remember coming in, finding a taxi chit or an Uber, receipt on my phone going, oh, is that how I got home? Those are horrible things. 20s cute, 30s kind of pathetic, 40s really pathetic, 50s scary. So how do I navigate through that? I still drink with my friends. I just don't. We do old lady drinking. My best friend and I, we get together. That's one who I got really hammered with, by the way, 3 weeks ago. So it still is doable. We'll go downtown. Sometimes we have our favorite. We go to the Hotel Vancouver. We have these things called Bubbles and Berries, and they're dangerous. But it's champagne and freshly, and it's like angel wings. It's like $45 a drink. But so we don't do it often. But we have 2 of those. And then we go back to her place and we'll have the odd drink. We'll make dinner. We'll watch TV. And, at midnight we go to bed completely sober. We did the old lady drinking. We had a few, we got a little tipsy. And then we made dinner, watched TV. And I got 2 cats, 1 cat under one arm, 1 cat under the other on her fold out couch. That's our old lady drinking nights. So you can still drink with your friends. You got to make a conscious decision, I guess, on who you're going to hang out with and who you're not, or see the friends that are heavy drinkers during the day when you don't have to. The only way that you can figure it out is to go out there and navigate it yourself and figure it out. I would imagine everybody has a different take. I imagine some people on the Sinclair Method had to walk away from all their friends, but that's what they had to do. I didn't have to do that. And I'm very fortunate. It's hard to make friends in your 50s. I'm in Vancouver, where it's a weird little town for that. People have said it's very hard to meet people in the film industry and in Vancouver. I'm 53. I don't know what it would be like to meet sober people today. I did AA. It wasn't my thing. They're not my peeps. They're not my crowd. They're my brothers, but they're not mine. It can't be done. It's just going to have to be how you navigate yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say it was just kind of like a day by day thing where you were learning? Because I think we kind of overthink it. And we're like, oh my gosh, what's this going to be like? But it's like we haven't even crossed that bridge yet. So would you say it was more just each situation?
It is. And I'm the one that's like, I'm already freaking out about way over here and I'm over here. And it's like, and I'll catch myself and go, oh my God, Ferris, stop. I'm a control freak. I was a little kid, traumatic childhood, parents, horrible. I had horrible, God. Oh, as my mother used to say, oh Christ, darling, your father and I should never have had children. She always used to say it to the point where I'm like, okay, Mom, stop. Like, that's just mean. Like, I know you're trying to be, I'm offering you information. It's a horrible thing to say. They really shouldn't have had children. So I've got that whole, but yeah, you gotta, someday you just gotta live in the moment, be mindful. And that's what they also say about drinking. Try and be mindful. When you start drinking again with naltrexone, you gotta give it a fucking chance, man. You can't plow it back and drink through. You can drink through it. It's a small pill. It's 50 milligrams. You need to have the first drink. If you drink, somebody told me, if you're a hard drinker, move to beer and wine, move to something with less alcohol in it, and then go slowly. Have that first drink, mindfully taste it. Go. Okay. And then see how the buzz goes as you go along. You have to go, okay, and then try your second one. Give it a chance to fight off the alcohol. Mickey in 2 minutes is going to go right through it. This didn't work for me. No, you got to give it a chance. So yes. And in life, don't look at the finish line. Look at this day. Look how many drinks you had. And it's going to start with 6 drinks. And then it's going to go to 4, depending on what your drinking habit was. And then you're going to move to 3. And then you're going to move to 2. And then you're going to go a day without alcohol. And then you're going to go a week without alcohol. It's going to sneak up on you. You're not going to notice it until you look back at it. So just live in this day. Just do what you can do today.
Yeah.
Let naltrexone do the heavy lifting. It will if you do it religiously. If you take it an hour before you drink every time you drink. If you drink slowly and mindfully, start with the lower alcohol content stuff. Let it do its work. It will do it, but you got to give it a chance. And you have to just don't shoot for the ending, which is what I do. Just see how it goes, and it will take you on the road.
Yes. And then you were talking about mindfulness. I just have to say, I remember being many months into the method and like really starting to take mindfulness seriously because I could see how much I was drinking out of habit. And I would notice that if I just paused after each drink and really examined my craving and am I enjoying this? Like, how does this buzz feel? Like, what do I really feel like doing now? Just like pausing and asking myself these questions, it started to steer me away from going drink after drink after drink. And I realized what a habit that was just like, oh, my glass is empty. Let me fill it up again. And but it was like, if I could just stop and give myself some space, which naltrexone allows us to do, before naltrexone, we're just like, I need another drink. But with this medication over time, you're like, you can take some space. And that made huge difference for me.
Yeah, it's so hard to explain until you've experienced it. Katie, you and I know what it's like trying to explain the color purple to a blind person. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know until you've gone through it. Let me give you an example. Last night, big week, came back, had to write some notes about all the media I'm going to tell about this mortgage company because it's stressing me out. Went to a little restaurant around the corner, had a beer. Habit? Absolutely. Just having a glass of water in front of me, I'm just like, and I didn't want wine. Wine now gives me headaches. I just don't drink it anymore. Had a beer, and I would say 2/3 of the way through it, and I just looked at it, and I'm like, why did I even do that? So that will happen for you, but you won't notice it until you do it. And it's like, that was habit. That was, oh my God, I'm having a rough day. It's Friday. Better reward myself. Going through, and I was writing notes down. I didn't want to be in my head. So I'm like, my habit went, let's have a beer. And then what naltrexone did for me and the Sinclair Method is you just look at that beer and you go, this is 400 calories. It's a bunch of barley. I'm going to have a headache. It's a bit sweet. Like you'll just look at it differently.
Yeah.
You just do. And I don't know how to explain that other than when people go, oh no, I know what she means by you'll just look at it differently. It just won't look like, euphoria again. It won't look like, sweet release. It won't look like your saving grace. It'll just look like what it is, a glass of barley and alcohol. You'll just look at it and go, I don't want that.
Yeah. Someone once told me that they felt like naltrexone was like a truth serum to really see alcohol for what it is when it's not giving us that endorphin hit. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. You know what? It's an AA term. And as much as I don't like AA, anyway, it doesn't matter why I don't like AA. It works for a lot of people, but they had some great sayings. And I did learn a lot there. And one of them, somebody once stood up at the podium and I laughed, and I have used this ever since. It puts a turd in your beer. It puts a dump in your beer. You just will never drink the same way again. And that's why actually a lot of people go, they start and then they have success and they go, oh my God, this is working. Oh my God, this is working. And they walk away. And that's when you know you're not ready. Yeah. You wanted the problems to go away, but you didn't want the alcohol to go away. And that's totally fair. When you're ready is when you're ready. Everybody's journey is going to be different. It worked for me, and I stuck through the side effects because I was so ready for this to be different. Some people aren't ready. They try it and they go, this is working. Oh my God, this is working. No, not ready. Oh, don't like the side effects. A million excuses. Trust me, you'll go through the side effects when you really want to do this. And that's going to look different for everybody. And don't let anybody judge you for that. Right. That just is what it is. But it absolutely will put a turd in your beer. It will change your drinking habits, and it'll change what you look at alcohol like. So if you're not ready, you better look at that and think about it. You gotta really look at it and go, am I really ready for this? And trust me, you are ready. Life is way better sober. It's way better without the hangover. It's way better without the depression of the hangover. But you don't take my word for it. You're just gonna have to figure that out on your own. But there's a beautiful pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. Guaranteed.
Totally. And like you said, like it's okay to not be ready. There are different stages of change that we go through. And I've seen people who tried it 2 or 3 times, and then by the 3rd time they committed and they reached extinction. But it's like, that's okay. It's like, there's other things you can do to kind of mentally prepare, I think, during that early stage when maybe you're not quite ready to fully commit to it.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe you don't even know, but you'll know when you try it and go, oh my God, this works. And you're like, oh my God, this works. And you want to back out. If you find yourself making excuses, oh, I don't like the side effects. Oh, I forgot it at home. Then you know what? That could be your subconscious telling you you're not ready. If you're finding ways to sabotage using this, and that's totally fine. Everybody has a different journey. AA would say, go out and do some more research. But one of the great things about naltrexone is every drinking session is an extinction opportunity. And when somebody told me that, it took the shame and the guilt and the horror out of it. So as long as you use it properly, again, golden rule, 1 hour before you drink, every time you drink, it's only one rule, but you have to get that one right if you want to see success. As long as you stick to that, this will work. So you have to stop and go, am I mentally ready? You can go read books. I would say go read the woman who turned me on to it, This Naked Mind. What's her name again?
Annie Grace.
She's the one that actually told me about Claudia Christian. Look up Claudia Christian. Go get the book by Roy Scapa. Go see Claudia. Claudia made a documentary about the Sinclair Method called One Little Pill. I think you can actually find it free online somewhere, streaming somewhere. There's lots of things that you can do to get ready for it. You don't have to do anything yet, anything at all. But every time you drink on that pill will be a step closer to extinction. So if that's the way you got to do it, and if you still got to drink 3 drinks a day for the next 6 months, keep doing it. Just take the pill an hour before you drink. Naltrexone will do the work. You don't have to. Your only job is to take it an hour before you drink every time you drink. And I cannot express that enough. It is a miracle pill. It's not magic. You have to meet it partway.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how has your life changed, like the before and after of the Sinclair Method? Like, what does a day in the life look like maybe then versus now?
I'm free. I'm free now. And it's the monkey on your back. I'd walk down the street and I'd see a restaurant. I'd look for the chalkboards out front that had what beers they had on top. Like everybody's addiction and the insanity of alcohol looked very different. But I really thought about alcohol and saw it everywhere. I didn't necessarily drink it 24/7. I got until 4 or 5 o'clock before I'd like, only once in a while would I totally go off the rails and black out and do the crazy things that you see in the movies. I don't obsess about it. It doesn't take up all my brain anymore. I'll go easily a week. Like when I'm working, I used to justify having drinks every day. When I'm working, I won't work. Like I told you, I went a month without a single drink and didn't even really think about it. It didn't even cross my mind. And I know that if you told me that 6, 7 years ago, that I'll go a month without thinking about alcohol, I would have told you were crazy. I would have called you all kinds of indecent names. I would say, or I'd say again, I'm special. All actors, we think we're special. And I am special, but I'm not special in that regard. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, life goes on. Are there screw ups? Are there going to be hardships in life? Absolutely. But without the hangover, I didn't realize how much of my depression was actually constant small alcohol use, right? If you drink every day, that little depression, your sleep is affected, and alcohol is a depressant. So you're low grade depressed all the time, but you don't know what good feels like because you haven't gone a month without alcohol. And then all of a sudden you go a month without alcohol. You can handle your life so much better without a hangover and without a depressant in your system. So yeah, there's still issues, but you handle them so much more differently. I don't have the weight of the addiction. I don't have the shame anymore. I don't have the guilt. I just go day to day. Is life boring without alcohol? I used to think it would be. It's not. It's really not. You can go to a party and everybody, I'm going to go to a party and drink soda water and look like an idiot. You know what? Put a wedge of lime in there and ice. People think it's a vodka. And another thing is, again, thinking I'm so special, people are going to know, they're going to judge me. People don't give a shit if you have a soda water or a vodka and soda in your hand. They don't care. I used to think they did it. Like I thought everybody at every party was as hammered as I was. A, no, they weren't. And B, nobody cares if you're drinking or not. And if they do, fuck off. Like if they do, they're not the people for you. Then they've got to look at their own drinking. You can have fun at parties. You just got to go and do them and go, wow, this is so much better with my mind clear. This is so much better knowing I'm not going to sleep with the drummer of the band. You know, and I only say those as my guilt because I did a lot of that. Yeah. And I want women to know. For men, there's a little less stigma around. I know that a lot of women get drunk and horny or drunk and sleazy or slutty or whatever. I was definitely that woman. And I know a lot of women are, and they don't like talking about it because that is a very shameful thing. I'm not ashamed of it. Screw it. My life is my life. If I wrote a book today, I'd have some great stories. You can only, they on your deathbed, all you got are stories, and you've got great ones. And I've got ones that I will take to my grave that I'll never tell a single soul. I have shame and guilt that I probably, there's a few things I do this, think about it, and I go, somebody reminds you up, and you're like, no, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, mom, Tim's hitting me. Those ones where you just go, nope, can't even think about it. I'll always have those. But I look back at them now, and I can laugh at them, and I can know, I think more than anything, I used to go out at night. Oh, it's going to make me emotional talking about it. I used to go out at night, and I didn't know how the night was going to go. And I never understood what alcoholism AUD was until I really went, okay, Sam, just have one. How about two? And then I'd have 8. And the whole insanity would come back. And I was like, how come I can't just have 2? How come some people can have 2? And I don't have that fear anymore. I would go out with this fear, and I didn't know what the heaviness was, and what that fear was. I didn't know how the night was going to go. And as a woman stumbling around, you get home without your shoes. You don't know if you had sexual relations with your cab driver, or you've got crazy memories of things that you did. I'm not ashamed of them. I just am so grateful that I don't have those fears of going out anymore and struggling with that. I'm just so grateful for it. And anybody who is struggling with that, you're not alone. Boy, you're not alone. Don't worry. There's people. The great thing about AA and those meetings is you got to hear stories that were way worse than yours. Everybody always had a way worse. And I guarantee you I've got them. But you don't have to go through that fear anymore of going out and not knowing how it's going to go. And I think that was the most terrifying part of it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my gosh. And I remember that too. Like I was actually enjoying drinking on the Sinclair Method more because of that exact reason. I could go out with friends and have 2 or 3 and go home and remember the night and not do really stupid things. So
it's a safety net if you let it. Like, again, we talked about this. You can drink through it and keep plowing through it and go into a blackout if you want and then say, this isn't working. No, you got to give it a chance, right? But if you drink mindfully and carry around a glass of wine, you'll drink too. And just knowing that I can take my car now to places and have just one, or have half of one, or have a vodka and soda, and you know, it's this much soda. Tell the bartender you can just give me half an hour or just none, whatever. I can take my car. I have the freedom to live my life now without fear and without that doom of how's this going to go. And I mean, some nights I get out of there and go, check. You get up in the morning, everybody's done this. Keys, car. Is there anybody next to me? Shoes, jacket. You know, I've gone looking for my car before. I used to have a parking spot that was tiny. It was in one of those old buildings with tiny little spots and like the doors on each side. And I'd run down to find my car. I'm not proud of this. Run down to find my car in the morning, and I would park perfectly.
Wow.
I know. And even I'm like, oh my God, like that's just terrifying when your brain's on autopilot and you can park so perfectly. People, you had full conversations with your parents, with somebody, you don't even remember them. That's a terrifying and horrible and shameful experience. But just know you're not alone. Somebody's got a worse story than you.
Yep.
And the Sinclair Method and naltrexone made drinking, put a gate on it for me. Drinking mindfully, put a total gate on. I know how the night was going to go. And that relief is amazing. Really is.
Yeah. And it's nice. I mean, like, yeah, there are things from AA that are helpful. And I think for some of us, like, it's helpful to look back on those stories and see how far we've come. And for me, that was a huge motivator because I was seeing like all of the risky things I was doing. More I was drinking, I was like, that was going to lead me somewhere bad. I knew it. It already was. And so being able to look back and be grateful that, oh my gosh, this method like rescued me from this. Who knows where it was going.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the crazy, stupid, horrible, cringy things I did. I don't think one of them was done without alcohol. I think all of them were under the influence of alcohol. And the great thing now is if you make a bad decision, we're still going to make bad decisions. Shit's still going to happen, right? Life is still going to happen. Bad things are still going to come up, but you're just going to have a better way of dealing with it now. Dealing with a shitty situation sober is a 400% better than dealing with a shitty situation with shame and low-grade depression from the alcohol you drank last night or whatever. Just knowing that we'll be able to deal with it sober and head on and remember it. There's just so much more freedom in that. Like I'm going through hell right now with the loss of this house. I'm fighting with mortgage companies. I'm suing my insurance broker. All these people are in way worse shape than I am. I'm going through about as much hell as you. Yeah. You know, add a divorce and maybe death of a loved one. And I've got the trifecta of horrible shit going on in my life right now. But knowing, and eventually you don't want to drink alcohol. Like when I didn't drink for that month, I think a lot of that had to do with stress. Because you used to drink to get out of that stress. Now you know what that stress feels like when you're hungover or when you're drunk, and it doesn't feel good actually. So you get to a point where you don't lean on alcohol anymore because it doesn't actually work. It gives you a momentary lapse of whatever or a momentary release, but it's not worth all the shit that comes the next day. It's just not worth it. And you learn that you can be an adult, you can be a big boy now, a big girl now, and handle that stuff sober, and it's so much better.
Yes. And that's like how you know you're free when you're going through one of the worst things in your life and you're not leaning on alcohol because you realize like, I need to have a clear mind right now. And that's just going to make things worse. Like,
yeah, it does. It does make things worse. And you even when I was in the middle of my AUD, you know that, but you justify, Jesus, you could justify an elephant flying through the air if you really wanted to, you know what I mean? Like you justify, no, I definitely need this for this. No, you don't. And it took naltrexone, the Sinclair Method, for me to get away from the addiction and get away from leaning on it habitually, emotionally, all these different ways, and looking back at it and going, wow, I actually justified needing alcohol for all that stuff. And you won't. And trust me, you think you may be different, but you're not, because I did the say, oh, this is never gonna, no, but all those nevers gonna fill in the blank, they all came true. You're never gonna be able to not think about alcohol, came true. You're never gonna, be able to go to a party without booze. It's true. I've done all those things. Now, I will say you get less, what's the word? You want to deal with drunk people less. I will say that. Going to a wedding, by the end of the night, you don't want to be there when you're somewhat sober. And you can still drink if you want to. Take a cab or whatever. You'll still drink. It won't be quite the same thing, but you'll still drink and you'll still get drunk. But you will eventually go, I don't want to be the last person at the wedding anymore. I don't want to be the last person out of the bar. And that's freedom in itself. But you'll start to get annoyed by when you see your friends really hammered. You're allowed to leave a party early. I got to be up early in the morning, or you don't have to make an excuse at all. Hey guys, it's just time to go. I don't need to give you an excuse or an answer or whatever. You will get less tolerant of your hammered friends or family members or whatever. That will definitely change, but I don't think that's a bad thing,
Yeah. No, your priorities change as
Yeah.
you kind of grow into this new version of yourself.
Yeah. And I used to think you're going to be, oh, you're a knob, you're a nerd, you're a
I
geek,
know.
you're a loser if you didn't drink. I didn't do it consciously, but I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I would say, you don't drink, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
And you can't ask those things now because a lot of people don't drink now. Like kids, thank God. Kids are useless and they work way less hard than we did. But I tell you what, they don't drink like we did as kids. Like my friends' kids, alcohol became less of a dependent. And in my high school days, we definitely didn't go out without alcohol. So I'd like to see the younger generation are drinking less and less. So they're learning that, yeah, you can go to a party totally sober. You couldn't do that when I was a kid. But maybe society will head towards less alcohol use, more mindful, more meditative. We're finding different things to do. Also, people are online a lot more. There's a lot less socializing. So I think alcohol is becoming a very different thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
Let's see the way it goes. What I would like to see though is I'd like to see the medical community embrace naltrexone and the Sinclair Method a lot more. There's not enough information out there. It needs to get out there because it is a lifesaver for yourself. For me, we are living proof, and I never thought this would happen, that there is a way to get rid of the addiction to alcohol and still be a drinker, or still not change your life too much and not blow up your life and not have to go to meetings, twice a day, every day. Now my brother loves him, loves AA. He goes to 3 meetings a day. He's the treasure. He embraced it. And my brother wouldn't be sober or alive today without AA. And I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah.
But there's some people that AA or smart meetings just don't work for. I found naltrexone on the Sinclair Method and it worked for me. And I think it could work for I'd say probably 92% of the population it would work for. That's my take.
Yeah, like C3 always says, options save lives. So Sinclair Method is an awesome option. It's not the only one. We don't pretend like it's the only one, but it's an awesome one. And we want to scream it from the rooftop because our lives have been changed from it.
Absolutely. And the medical community one day, you talk to a doctor, a GP, and it's depressing how, thank God I had a good one because I went to her. She was very open-minded. She said, look, I don't know much about it, but I'll give you a month and see how it goes. And the first doctor I went to get it, he did the same thing. So I had open-minded doctors, but I've got friends who went to their doctor and their doctor went, oh, no, I'm not going to recommend that. You know what? Go to another doctor. If that's your doctor, go to another doctor. Find one. Go to a walk-in clinic because they see a lot of shit at walk-in clinics. They see a lot of down and out. They'll give you naltrexone. If your GP won't do it, or some people are ashamed to ask their GP because their family doctor, which by the way, if they told your family that you were on that, you could sue them. But go find a doctor that will give you a prescription for naltrexone. Somebody out there will. Go and try it. I would just recommend get a month of it. Get a month of it and try it. Even if you take it every single day for a month. Yeah. Give it a shot. What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
Nothing.
There's nothing. And even if you don't feel ready, like I've known people who started it and weren't quite ready, at least you know that that's a tool that's there when you are ready. There's not this like hopelessness anymore. It's like, okay, I know that that's there and that will help me when I'm ready.
Yeah. And I've got 4 friends right now that are circling, they're the plane circling the airport. They're two, and I laugh because I'm like, who are you kidding? Oh, yeah, the symptoms were really bad. Is one friend. Don't worry, he'll get back there. It's just not bad enough yet. It's getting there, but it will. One of them, she left it, came back, and her excuse kept saying, oh, the side effects. And then I'm like, hey, how's it going, Jay? And she's like, yep, okay, I'm ready. Sorry. And she knew it. She just needed to circle the drain a bit before she went there. And then I've got a buddy who owns a bar. Very tough for him. So he found it and he did one of those, oh my God, it works. Oh my God, it works.
Yeah.
No, not ready. He's not ready, but he's smart enough to know he's not ready. He was the one to say, yep. And I know that it's there when I'm ready. Everybody's journey is different. Don't be ashamed of your journey. Your journey is going to be what it's going to be. Mine took hell and high water to get, but I'm here. And mine was only ever going to be the story that it was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much. Someone in the chat said Samantha is a hoot, and I totally agree. So thank you so much for being with us today, Sam.
Thanks, you guys. You know what? I always say the same thing. Katie, I say this with you and I'm always open to discuss the topics, especially for women and alcohol. It's a very shameful. We've got some bad memories, and it's not something we share openly because we've got shame and guilt, especially women, around the things that we've done when we're drinking. So I'm already an animated freak, but I really want to throw out there my experience because I can look back at it now and laugh because I'm safe now. I found my way. And I want people out there to know that they're not alone in this disorder and this addiction. There is still a huge stigma around alcohol. It needs to become a bigger conversation. And if I can throw out my experience, I find that sharing stuff, if we can laugh at it sometime in the future, we can laugh at it now. Laughter is the best. It bonds us. These horrible experiences bond us. So I will always talk incredibly openly about my experiences with alcohol, because that's the only way that I think that we can bring it all in and go, I'm not alone. Somebody else has experienced this. I can do this. And that's all I want to be able to do. So no, hey, anytime. And you know, Katie, I love coming on with you. I welcome call me anytime.
Thank you so much. Yes, I appreciate it so much. And thanks everyone for being here, and everyone who will watch in the future too. Have a great Saturday, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, Sam.
And we'll do this again soon, hey?
Yeah, let's do it again.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.